Hello, I meant to record this the other day, but uh my tablet kept dying. I was doing like 30 things at once and you know, it's okay though. This is for this last Wednesday, even though granted there was no one that showed up and that's okay. I heard midterms, papers, work, life, it just happens sometimes, but and this is the purpose for these videos anyways. Like I said, I do apologize for it being late, but to be fair, most of these Mere Christianity videos have been late, so I do apologize for that. But let us begin with this chapter. We're on the third chapter of this. Whoa, the third chapter of this of the book of Mere Christianity. The third chapter of the third book. So we are. There's been so much going on, but let us begin. The first thing to get clear about Christian morality between man and man is that in the department, Christ did not come to preach any brand new morality. The golden rule of the New Testament: do as you would be done. Do as you would be done by. That's a weird way of wording that. I forgot that. I read this Wednesday and I forgot that's how it was worded. Is a summing up of what everyone at bottom had always known to be right. Really great moral teachers never do introduce new moralities. It is quirks, cracks who do that. Uh, as Dr. Johnson said, people need to be reminded more often than they need to be instructed. The real job of every moral teacher is to keep on bringing us back time after time to the old simple principles which we are all so anxious to see, like bringing a horse back uh, and back to the fence. It has refused to jump, and bringing a child back and back to the bit in its lesson that it wants to shrink. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of word that a little bit differently because I just read the first full paragraph of this chapter, and we're really digging into this idea because we have touched on, if you don't believe that Christ is the Son of God, then he was a lunatic, he was crazy, he was all these things. But since he's, for one, in the book, in the podcast, he uses the perspective of a believer. You are not just looking at him as the Son of God, obviously. We are seeing him as teacher, as the one who taught so many amazing lessons, and he did teach us moral lessons, but nothing really new. He just re-emphasized certain things from the Old Testament, because there's a lot of things that Christ mentions that seem new to the Pharisees or whatever, or they don't know or don't understand it because they didn't understand what God was talking about in the Old Testament. And something that I think is important is one moment. My throat is dry. Uh, is the fact that how he kind of puts together that Christ did not bring new morals into the thing, but he's just re-emphasizing everything. But on top of that, the thing with the horse and the thing with the child, if a horse makes a mistake, it is hesitant on jumping the fence, jumping the whatever it is that they're supposed to jump over, and the child is sometimes hesitant on going back to a lesson or go back to whatever it is that they need to learn because they did bad the last time or whatever. Actually, I can use an example on my own end of things. Throughout my life, there are certain things I never want to touch back on because I didn't understand it that well. I barely made it through certain things in my own mental brain, and graduating in 3 weeks, less than now, with the days now, and so there's been a lot that I've thought about, and this actually really brings home to me, the importance of being reminded to do certain things, and that's what Christ is doing. And that is what everything in Scripture is doing. It is teaching us, is reminding us every day what we need to do. Now, granted, we don't always read Scripture daily. I'm sure we're all guilty of that. So, nothing against anybody. Uh, and this is on page 82. I always forget to mention that, but the second thing to get clear is that Christianity has not and does not profess to have a detailed political program for applying do as you would be done by to a particular society at a particular moment. It could not have. It is meant for all men at all times. The particular program which suited one place or time would not suit another. And anyhow, that is not how Christianity works. When it tells you to feed the hungry, it does not give you lessons in cooking, which would be very interesting if the Bible actually did that. There's a lot of stuff I want to cook from those days. When it tells you to read scriptures, it does not give you lessons in Hebrew or Greek. I have been in both, and they are a headache. Or even in English grammar. It has never intended to replace or subside the ordinary human arts and sciences. It is rather a director which will set them on to the right jobs and a source of energy which will give them all new life if only they will put themselves at its disposal. One of the things that I love about this little area here is the reminder that there are certain things ow, that the Bible doesn't specifically do, and it tells us to, like Lewis says, to feed the hungry. We've been dealing with this for a very long time, for a very very long time within the church. Sometimes people will do meals within the church, but not always, feed the hungry. They will do this, but not always do this. They will uh, give money to charity or give money to missions overseas, but don't do things here in the U.S. And so there's this issue here. And, obviously there are certain things that we need to do as believers, but we don't always think about what we actually need to do within our within what we do. Giving the food, we don't have to cook to give people, food. I've seen genuine human beings make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, like very basic, very easy things that a child could literally make, and they made it was on a countertop, so it was about a few hundred, if not just 100. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but I saw them make it. I saw them put them all together. They were just handing them out, and you saw the difference that made. And so it doesn't take a genius, doesn't take anything like that to be morally good. Now, it does bring to question. Some people are like, do ask questions on a non-believer doing that, and instead of a believer, but that's a different that's for another video or lesson. Going to page 84, I think this is a good area right here. Maybe. All the same, the New Testament, without going into details, gives us a pretty clear hint of what a fully Christian society would be like. Perhaps it gives us more than we can take. It tells us that there are to be no passages or parasites. Pass- oh, passengers. I was like passages. No, I didn't pay attention to the end there, or parasites. If man does not work, he ought not to eat. Everyone is to work with his own hands. And what is more, everyone's work is to produce something good. There will be no factual, facture of silly laxers and then sillier advertisements to persuade us to buy them. Um, one with that, that was English is hard. I wonder what time is it. That makes sense. We're getting close to the time when I usually don't record, so that makes sense. We as believers, we need to do certain things. We need to act. We need to be a certain way. And Lewis is pretty much kind of calling us out here, and he's saying you need to work, you need to act, and you need to do things accordingly to be there for others. And going from there, that might be a good thing to go with. Some people say that when Moses and Aristotle and the Christians agreed in forbidding interest or usual, as they called it, usual, they could not foresee the joint stock company and were only thinking of the private money lender, and that therefore we need not bother about what they said. That is a question I cannot decide on. I'm not an economist, economics, economics, economics. I am troubling with English. I just said troubling with English, so yes. And I simply do not know whether the investment system is responsible for the state we are in or not. This is where we want the Christian to be. But I should not have been honest if I had, but I should not be honest have been honest if I had not told you that there are three great civilizations had agreed, or so it seems at first sight, in condemning the very thing on which we have based our whole life. One more point, and I am done. In the passage where the New Testament says that everyone must work, it gives us a reason in order that we may have something to give to those in need. Charity given to the poor is an essential part of Christian morality. In the frightening parable of the sheep and the goats, it seems to be the point on which everything turns. Some people nowadays say that charity ought to be unnecessary and that instead of giving to the poor, we ought to be producing a society in which there were no poor to give to. I'm gonna just stop there for a minute. I don't think we'll ever be in a society until like new heaven, new earth kind of thing, where we will ever not have poor. And that's really sad to think about. I at my school we'll jokingly say stuff like I'm a poor college student, which is accurate, which is accurate. But we don't have a lot of money. We can spend a little money here and there to try to make our crazy lives a little bit less crazy, or a little bit uh, focus on fun stuff that we enjoy or whatever. But we can't always have that. But there are people out there who are poor and need help. I know that I've been to Alaska, And around this time of year is probably one of the hardest times to really think about stuff like this. But in Alaska, around this time of the year, around the freezing temperatures, many homeless people in Alaska die. And I grew up in Chicago, and I know for a fact that there are many that died there. Thankfully, in Chicago, there are soup kitchens. There are places that um, have those places. But I'm also gonna say here, I'm also gonna say here in Texas, I don't know the number or if like how many people are really dying or anything. I hope no one is, obviously. But I have noticed that in Texas around the summertime and even early fall, we were dealing with 100 and something degree weather, and that was literal death for me because I hate the heat. But that was some of the worst heat I think we people have ever dealt with, and those who are homeless, have to deal with that. So, we are talking about these very specific things and the fact that we need to work a certain way. So the question is with this is how are we going to take that within the December that's coming up, I know within another 6 or so weeks, I think, I can't remember, y'all the youth will be out of classes, be able to have the winter break until some point in January. But the question I have for you is how will you use this time during the winter? Now, I do plan on trying to do a few things, maybe one or two things, but I know that you guys do things with family, and that is, I prefer if you guys do that anyways in a lot of ways. But when it comes to the this time of the year, where are those who are in need of things? Where are those who are in need of, someone to just listen to them? The simplest of things in the world, at least in my opinion, is to just listen and hear someone out. So that's kind of all I have. I kind of went off script there for a moment, but I encourage you guys to watch these videos to kind of keep up, to watch the videos that I have already posted since I am caught up here. I will be honest, I'm probably going to not always get the recordings that on the Wednesdays of, especially within the next few weeks with finals, with last things to handle for classes, and just pretty much graduation coming up. It is a very impactful time, but I am not going to slack. I'm not going to allow myself to have multiple weeks behind, and I do apologize for that. But don't forget, this is Saturday, so I'll see everyone tomorrow at church. I pray that everyone is, going to be well rested and be able to be energized. We're going to be on Noah, the covenant between God and Noah, and the fact that, even as he was a righteous man, he made many mistakes. So I am excited to get that started, get back into that, and I hope to see everyone tomorrow.